This microphone has been around for 51 years. Is it still the best microphone for you? We're about to find out. My name is Bruce Gilson, and we are jumping into an unboxing video with the SM7B. Now, if this microphone's been around for 51 years, why are we doing an unboxing video? We are in the middle of our What's in the Studio series, and for our studio, we made the decision to go with the Shure SM7B as a part of our microphone package. So we happen to have some, and we thought, let's find out what's in the box together, because in reality, a lot of people don't know what comes inside the box of an SM7B. So we're gonna find out, we're gonna do some testing. We also had an amazing conversation with Shure about what makes the SM7B so special. So this is an in-depth episode where we really dive in. Let's go. Now, a lot of people think that the SM7B, that the B at the end stands for broadcast, and that's actually not true. It stands for Revision B, because the product launched in 1973 as the SM7, and then in 1999, they did their first revision, which was the SM7A. In the SM7A, they changed the coil in the back, they changed a couple of the engineering pieces, and only a couple of years later, they decided they also needed to rebuild the windscreen on the microphone, and that became Revision B, and that's why we have the SM7B. So the guts of this microphone has been around since 1973. If you don't know, this is the microphone that Michael Jackson chose for his Thriller album and several of his other albums, and it's a famous microphone for tons of vocalists throughout the years. But we are gonna be using it primarily in our studio, and what's really made it popular in the most recent years is its use on podcast. So why does it get chosen so much to do podcasts? Well, when you are creating content that is specifically focused on vocal tonality. So if you're listening to a podcast, you're listening to it in your car, you're listening to headphones, and really you're just listening to people's voices. It's really important that that voice sounds as natural as possible. So there's a lot of manufacturers that they have created broadcast studio recording style microphones, and they're all trying to represent the voice as naturally as they can. And in the process, the SM7B has become the industry standard throughout all the years. Now, let's cut this open and find out what is exactly inside the SM7B box. Simple packaging, you open it up, we've got a little cool little card here, you know, some graphics on it. Sure, they've updated their logo. This is actually last year, I believe, that they started including this kind of neon green look. So it comes with a little sticker if you want to put that on your road case or on maybe on your wall or something. I've got a road case, I always put stickers on my road case. Some information about the SM7B, and then right up underneath here, you're gonna see the microphone itself. It comes wrapped. A lot of people also love how clean and just, you know, sleek that this microphone looks. When you pick it up, it's clearly heavy. It's, you know that it's made with quality products and that this is an expensive microphone, and that it deserves it because of just the quality of the build, the brushed metal and everything. It's obviously a great mic. We're gonna come back, we've got a lot more to talk about the microphone itself, but inside the box, there's a little plate that comes that you can use to cover up the toggles on the back, brand that for your broadcast or for your podcast. You also got a little Velcro to clean up your cables. Other things that are inside the box is under this flap here, there is a different style windscreen or pop filter that you've probably never seen before. And there is also a small threading device. A lot of times when you're threading your microphone on, the thread of the actual boom arm is gonna have two different standards and two different sizes, so they provide you with an adapter to be able to handle that. The pop filter that comes on the SM7B is really the most classical shape that you're familiar with. But if you wanted to go with a larger style pop filter, they provide that inside the box. Why might you want this? You might want this if you are doing a broadcast setting and you've got somebody that's on air, on talent, that really has strong plosives. We're gonna talk a little bit more about what plosives are, but plosives are essentially the sounds that come out of your mouth that are right on the tip of your mouth, and they really kind of attack the microphone. If you've got talent that's kind of their speaking styles, that they have really strong P's and S's and T's coming out of the front of their mouth.
That's what real actors do. And when you enunciate, you spit. Thanks. Okay, check it out. Picture? What picture?
You're probably gonna want to have the larger pop filter. But most people have found that the traditional standard pop filter is just fine for the SM7B, and so this is the look that you're most familiar with. When you take the SM7B out of the box, you can tell the build quality is just really top notch. It's heavy, it's got, weight to it. I mean, of course, it's just such an iconic look, and they've done some just really simple branding, but it's not over the top. On the back of the SM7B, there are some toggle switches. You have to use a small screwdriver to get in there and make some adjustments, but you can adjust your high pass and low pass filter on the back of your microphone here. The pop screen that comes with it, or that everybody's used to, has a plastic rim that kind of snaps into place so you can pull off. And then when you do that, you look on the inside and there's this grill, and the grill is hiding, really the microphone element that's on the inside of it that you can't quite see, but it definitely looks interesting. And I wanted to know more. And so I decided I was gonna reach out to Shure and see if they'd have a conversation with me to find out what is really going on inside the SM7B that makes it such a special microphone. And we're pretty lucky because they agreed to have a conversation with us. So we're gonna roll this conversation that Mario and I had about the SM7B. Meanwhile, we're gonna do a studio change, and we're gonna see you after the conversation.
It's great to meet you, and congrats on your purchase of your SM7B.
I appreciate that for
Yeah,
sure. All right, so
yeah.
I want to start with the 7B because that's what I'm talking on. That's what
Okay.
we just unboxed.
Yeah.
Um, we'll get into other microphones in a moment, but I'm going to take my pop filter off.
Yep.
It probably changes the way it sounds a little bit. There's a grill here, if y'all can see that on camera, and then there's a whole lot of cool looking technology behind the grill, but you don't actually let me know what that technology is. So
Mhm.
talk to us a little bit. What's happening inside this mic that makes it so special,
Yeah.
and really is what has made it the industry standard for such a long time?
Yeah, for sure. That capsule is very, very similar to the SM58 that you just had. Now, the secret sauce, I think, for the SM7B is the fact that that capsule is buried so deep into the microphone. So if you were to remove again your the pop filter, you'll see how far back that that yeah, you'll see how far back the actual mic element is. And that's kind of the secret to the SM7B. One of the physics, or one of the things in terms of physics that happen with an SM7B. Now, it does require an extra set of, I don't know, gain, if you will, in order for it to sound the way that it should, the way that you're probably using it, which would require.
We'll get into this, but it's a
Yeah,
gain hog. Like, it
it
wants
is.
a ton of gain,
It
right?
needs a
And
ton of gain in order for
yeah,
it, because along with the fact that it's buried a little bit into the middle of the microphone, it also has things like electromagnetic hum reduction. It's got a magnetic shielding, so it's very, very quiet. The noise floor is very, very quiet on the
yeah,
SM7B, and that's what makes it so great for broadcasting and
yeah.
podcasting, because it gives you that nice, low, rich podcast voice.
So
Um,
we have a little bit of a what might be considered a more expensive setup, although it's not crazy expensive. But our SM7B is going into a Focusrite. Then the
okay,
Focusrite is a USB, device that's taking off of the computer. So the Focusrite has external power that
right,
then allows it to have its own gain structure, and we
yeah,
can crank that thing way up to get the microphone where we need it. But
right.
that's not always an option for everybody. So we're going to
It
get
is
into a
not.
solution that you guys have
Yes,
been working on. You finally rolled out. We'll talk about that in a moment, but I don't want to
yeah,
lose total focus of the SM7B. But so
yeah.
you're saying that's why it requires so much gain, and that's
It
why you
does.
need exterior gear in order for it to really sound the way it needs to sound.
It does. It does need a little bit of finesse in terms of the gain because of the fact that that mic element, is so far back. I have mine right here. I don't know if you can see it. It's
Yeah,
so
we can
far
see it.
back on the actual microphone itself, which means it requires gain. Now it's a dynamic microphone, so again, it's going to be less sensitive to loud pressure sound. So it's also a great vocal microphone for that very reason. So a lot of famous artists have used or exclusively use an SM7B because of the power of their voice and whatnot. But
Mhm.
I think that's the most important thing with the SM7B, and the other mic we'll talk about is the fact that it does require that extra gain. And I think that's kind of the secret sauce for that microphone to get it the
Yeah.
way it needs to sound.
Couple of last things.
Yeah,
Right here, you can see on the back of my mic, I've got a couple of like switches and
yeah.
toggles and stuff. What is this? What's
So
going on, and why
You
do I
can
have that
actually
option?
yeah, you can actually control the frequency range or response of the mic itself, and by changing those switches on the mic. And you can do a high pass filter, you can do a bass roll off, you can make sure that the microphone is flat. So once you have the mic hooked up and you think that you need a little bit more bump in the mid range or a little bit more of a high pass, you can actually do that on the mic itself and still retain that frequency response without having to do it externally on like a mixer or something. And that might raise sort of the noise level a little bit if you're using an external EQ or something. You can
Got
actually
it.
do that directly on the mic at the source itself is what I like
Yeah.
to think of it. And it just because the microphone is so quiet,
Mm.
to do that kind of stuff directly on the mic, it makes a difference in some situations for sure.
It's so we've played around with it, and we've, flipped the switches and all that
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
and, it sounds great flat. It just
I
sounds
know.
so
I
good
To
flat.
be honest, I rarely. I think I've only switched. I think I've done some high pass filtering or some bass roll off in a live situation. Someone was using the SM7B as their live vocal mic, and because it was going through a PA and all that stuff, it needed a little bit of roll off on the bass. So I think that's like
Alright,
the only time I might have done that.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I've been running live audio for, I don't know, 20 years. I've
Yeah.
never seen an SM7B on a live
Right.
stage. And then I
Yep.
was thinking, I wonder why. Why not? So tell me, is it a good idea? Should I start taking these on some gigs with me and see what happens?
You absolutely can.
Wow.
I'm surprised too because it's a dynamic microphone. It's basically it works the same way as an SM58 does. You plug it in and you put it in your PA. Now,
Well,
do you
other
need some?
microphones, sorry to interrupt. So other
No,
microphones that show up on y'all's list are KSMs.
yeah,
I've used tons of KSMs live. I know, you've got the KSM 42, the KSM 32. These are commonly put in kick drums or commonly put on
they
guitar cabinets
are
and
KSMs for live. I usually use KSMs for recording, but I have seen like a KSM 32
mhm,
as a drum overhead in a live situation.
yeah,
I've also seen it used as sort of an audience
reference
sound
mic.
back
Yeah.
microphone for your in-ears. So there's lots of uses for KSM
So when I
in a
saw
live
those on the
situation,
list, and I know I've seen those in live production, and then I realized I've never seen an SM7B in live production, but you're
which is
saying rock and roll, go for it.
yeah, I mean, it's a dynamic microphone. I mean, as long as you can get that clean gain, and enough gain through whatever source or whatever house mixer it's plugged into, which I'm sure it'll run it easy. It sounds great. I'm actually surprised we don't see it more in a
Yeah.
live situation. And I have seen it in the studio on drums. I've seen
Uh-huh.
folks use it as kick drums, snare drums. I think we have a video on our Shure creators where one of our guys mic'd an entire drum set using SM7Bs.
Wow. I bet it
So
sounded
yeah.
fantastic. Just my theory. I
Oh
bet it
yeah,
sounded
it's
great.
great. Yeah. So a lot of
Okay.
usage, very versatile.
Let's say I'm like new to this process. I'm trying to figure out what's the right microphone for me. I know the name Shure. If
Yep.
I go to Shure's website and I go through the microphone filter uh, feature that you have on the website, it
Mhm.
pops up with 19 different options for me to choose
Well,
from. So that
we are a microphone company, so you are gonna get a lot of, options.
for sure. So the very first microphone to pop up is actually the SM58, like one of
Yeah,
the, that's the first thing on the list. So,
yep,
I know that this video is not really about the SM58, but
right?
tell me why this is on the list. Why might it be a good idea? And then we'll get into some better ideas.
So the SM58 has been around for quite a while, and it is our industry standard. It is a cardioid puller pattern with that single mic element. So it's that front address, single element. And back in the
Eh,
day, they would need 3 of those to give you this cardioid puller pattern, which means it's gonna pick up everything in the front of the microphone, but reject everything to the rear of the mic. And that's what
and I,
cuts down on feedback and all that kind of stuff. You probably should know that that's a dynamic microphone,
okay,
as opposed to a condenser microphone. And this is something that I tell everyone who's kind of new to the audio world. There are actually 3 types of mics in the world. There's ribbon, there's dynamic, and there's condenser. But
yeah,
dynamic and condensers are the ones that you're going to deal with the most out in the world. And the differences are dynamic microphones are ones that you commonly find on stage because they're less sensitive to loud pressure sounds. Whereas a condenser microphone is more sensitive. Its mic diaphragm is designed to pick up more detail in sound. So you find those more in professional studios where you have acoustically and treated environments, and
mhm,
they require phantom power, which kind of activates all the circuitry inside, and that's what makes them so sensitive.
yeah,
So I always tell people the difference between dynamic and condenser because depending on what your application is, you may be better off with something that's less sensitive, like a dynamic, or if you're in the studio recording acoustic guitars or drums or what have you, a condenser microphone might be something that you would need. So I always try to distinguish the 2 and just kinda
yeah.
get folks to understand the differences because it does matter, when you're out making your content or whatever audio production you're doing.
Yeah. So you're saying, hey, if you only have access to a 58, or if that's what's in your budget, it's going to work.
It's
We have better options, but this
it's
is going to work.
absolutely gonna work.
Hey, I just really want to say thank you so much. This has been super cool. I'm glad
Cool.
that I found somebody who knows actually what they're talking about versus me just trying to ramble on. So it's pretty
Right
awesome.
on. Well, I appreciate the time, and anytime you wanna have me, I'm happy to be there.
I want to push pause on the content real quick and give a special shout out to my buddies, Sean and Brandon, and the entire Guitar Center Professional team. Guitar Center Professional, or GC Pro, is a group of salespeople dedicated to helping people just like you, the professional AV industry. So how can GC Pro help you? Well, they're a good group of people all over the nation dedicated to helping people just like you get the best prices on gear. And if you want to get connected to your area GC Pro rep, make sure that you follow the description below and they'll get in touch with you. Now, as I mentioned, Sean, he serves Central Texas. Brandon, he serves Nevada, Utah, Arizona. So maybe you get a chance to talk to one of those 2 guys. But make sure that you go to the links in the description below, because not only is there information about GC Pro, there's also information about how to buy gear from us. When you buy gear from us, it helps us, and it also allows us to help you with special pricing. So go to the description below. Another special shout out goes to Geer Tech. Geer Tech is a manufacturing rep firm in the professional AV industry, and they've been serving the industry for over 25 years. If you're a manufacturer in the music, sound, broadcasts, or any other piece of the AV industry you want to be represented by Geer Tech. So reach out to Geer Tech. That's GEERTECH.net for more information. Now, back to the content.
While we're doing a set change, we're also going to be opening one of the Shure broadcast podcast boom stands that we talk about. So we want to open this up with you real quick. Now, I say real quick, I don't want to hurt myself. Now, this boom stand is actually made by Gator, as we just talked about, but it's got Shure branding on it. And when it comes out, there it is. It's all inside of the Shure branded plastic. Nice and clean, beautiful. It's got clips right here in the channel for you to clip in your XLR cable. These are all tension adjustable, so you can really set the tension of your arm properly. Then down here, it's got this, which we're gonna clamp to the desk. The boom mic sits into and allows us to boom over to our location. And then this right here is the extension that allows the boom mic to not have stress when it's connected to an SM7B and an XLR cable. Otherwise, the XLR is pressed up against this knuckle arm right here, and it really kind of pushes on that XLR, kind of stresses out your SM7B. So we're going to set it all up.
So we've been shooting this video on our SLX-D wireless microphone system by Shure. And we're about to jump into these two microphones and do some A/B testing, which is the SM7B and the SM58. Now, it is really important to note, when we jump into these two microphones, I have both of them flat. There's no EQing going on. They're just being passed the way that you would pass them. They've got good gain structure so that they are loud enough, but we're not doing any processing to them. I also want to say that this is the point where you're definitely going to want to put on headphones if you want to get really the best reference between these two microphones.
Now I'm talking to you through our brand new SM7B. And you probably can tell that there's a fairly significant difference between the SLX-D, which is a lavalier microphone that really has a large noise field. It's picking up a large amount, versus the SM7B, which is a very near field microphone, and it's not picking up a whole lot of the other sounds going around in our studio. Although you probably can hear maybe a couple of things that are artifacts that are going on. So that is the SM7B. This is the SM58. Now, the SM58, definitely industry standard microphone. It's been around for, the beginning of Shure was 99 years ago. I think this microphone is 75 years old. So it's been around for a really long time, and it is considered just an industry standard vocal mic. And it is one of the microphones that Mario and I discussed. If you have a budget and you need to stick to a lower budget, you can pull it off with just an SM58. But let's listen to the difference between an SM58 and the SM7B. You can probably notice that the SM7B has more quality reference in the lower end, which allows my voice to sound just a little bit more natural to the way that it sounds to me. Versus the SM58 and the SM57, they have a brighter tone. They're going to pick up what I would consider to be more of a live sound tone. So this is the SM58, and maybe you can hear that kind of mid-range, the little bit more tinny nature. And typically what you're having to do with the SM58 when you're EQing an SM58 is you have to shape it a little bit in order to make it sound a little bit more normal. What I would say is that the SM58 sounds live. It sounds like a live microphone. The SM7B sounds like a studio microphone. It sounds like you would expect something that's been really cleaned up and the audio has gone through a lot of processing. But in reality, it's not going through any processing. It's just going through a microphone that's designed to have just a really clean, great sound, more natural sound that brings out that lower end reference that you might be used to when you're listening to the radio or a podcast or a broadcast television. So those are some of the big differences between the SM58 and the SM7B. We're going to put our 58 away, and then we're going to do some A/B testing of the different toggles on the SM7B. Now we're going to do some A/B testing on some of the switches on the back of the microphone. We have two switches. One switch allows us to do a low-end roll-off or a low-end cut, and the second switch allows us to do a mid-range boost. You might use these for different purposes. I love the way that the SM7B sounds flat, meaning no changes, but let's listen to it with some changes with these different toggles. Now that toggle takes some of the low end and rolls it off. Really, the human voice is typically, between 700 and 2K on its frequency response. And this roll-off shouldn't change too terribly much, but really, what it really does is it changes how much resonance out of my chest cavity the microphone is picking up. You may notice a difference or you might not notice a difference, and it really depends on the voice and it depends on your setting. I personally love the way that the SM7B sounds flat, but this is how it sounds with the low-end roll-off. Now you should be hearing the SM7B with the mid-range boost. Now, a mid-range boost might be something you would want to do if you feel like your voice sounds too boomy on the mic. You might want to increase your mid-range to make it sound more natural to you, especially once you record it and play it back. That's really the test of time that's going to produce what you want with the microphone. The advantage to doing it inside the mic is that it should sound extremely natural, and that's the goal, instead of sounding processed by doing it in some form of outboard gear. But this is what the SM7B sounds like with my voice, the mid-range boost. Once again, I think that the microphone sounds best flat for my voice, and so that's the way we're going to keep it in our studio. But Mario and I did discuss something else that was interesting, and it was specific to the SM58 when he talked about how the coil inside of here and the coil inside of here are not that different from each other. And he said maybe one of the big differences is the distance of the mouth to where the coil is and how it's kind of tucked away inside of the SM7B. So I thought, let's take my SM58. Now I'm talking on my SM58, and what if I took my SM58 and I just put a huge pop filter on it to really kind of push it back away from my mouth? Am I going to get the same effect that I have with my SM7B? So this is the SM58 without the large pop filter. This is the SM58 with my large pop filter. I'm not sure if I can tell a difference, but I can say that I do think the SM7B still sounds a lot better, partly because the large microphone voice coil has a more natural sound. We've been using our SM7B for a few weeks now inside of our studio as we're producing content and as we've been using it for different recordings and things like that. I got to be honest, I'm super happy with the purchase that we made, the decision that we went to go with the SM7B. We are going to go into some details in a different video of our signal flow with audio, which definitely helps us get the most out of the SM7B versus some other Shure products that are on the market or other microphones that are available. But I'm really happy with the quality, and I've had a lot of people, we use this now for some of our webcasting phone calls to talk to clients, and I've had a lot of people comment how good my microphone sounds, and that's to be expected. It's a $400 microphone versus a traditional microphone coming off of your laptop if you're doing a Zoom call. So That's been something that's been unique that we didn't expect we were going to get out of it, but I'm really grateful that we've created that into our system so we can do high quality calls with our clients as we're trying to talk to them about upcoming projects. You might want to consider that with just different ways that you might use this microphone. There is more than just podcasting. There is more than just broadcast. You do have a lot of different options. Now, the microphone's not going to plug directly into your computer via USB. Shure has other products for that. But if that was something that you were interested in just really upping your game, those are some other ways that you could decide to use the SM7B, or you could sell it to your clients for them to use it once you put the whole system together. When we're examining microphones, you kind of have to look at everything and ask, is it worth the price? And the answer is, it depends. It depends on you. It depends on what your budget is. It depends on what your goals are. And Shure does have other microphones in different price points. And we're going to be coming out with a video that talks more about other podcast microphones, or you could think of them as broadcast microphones. But for us, I tell you, I'm really happy, and it was definitely worth it. Now, we have done a lot of work in this video with Shure, but just so you know, we paid for all of this ourselves. This is our honest opinion and review. We are a dealer for most of every type of microphone, and it really speaks to Shure's quality that it's the microphone that we choose when we're going to spend our own money for our studio. So pros, it's great. Cons, might be a little bit expensive for some people, but for us, we definitely think it's worth it. If you've decided that the SM7B is the right microphone for you or any other products that we discuss, make sure you go to the description below. We'll give you information of how you can buy those products. Well, this is the moment we try to remind you of a couple things. If you enjoy this content, make sure that you hit like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, make sure you stay up to date about what's going on at Event Tech AV and how we can help you become a better AV professional. Additionally, if you've got a question, put it in the comments. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. We also want to say thank you to our partners at Shure. This has really been a great video to do with them and to have them participate with us. I learned a lot. I hope that you learned a lot. And if you want to know more about what's in the studio, we also just released a behind the scenes video on our studio build that we just did. So we encourage you to click here and watch that, and we'll see you next time.